So today, special edition of Data Shark with me, Yoav Tzruya, my dear friend. Thank you for joining. Yoav, to our listeners, is also a pyramid investor. So just to put this on the table.
I'm effectively your boss, Amori, if you didn't get it just yet.
I feel it every day. It is stressful and annoying, but I'll send you the feedback, the 360, at the end of the year.
Sounds good.
So maybe we'll start with some intros. You want to share with us a little bit about your position, background, investments?
Great, sure. So first of all, thanks for inviting me. Good to be here.
I had no choice. You're a pyramid investor.
Exactly. I told you to invite me.
You paid for it.
Anyway, so good to be here. Just by way of very quick background, my name is Yoav Tzruya. I'm general partner at JVP, Jerusalem Venture Partners. And we've been partnering with you and with Pyramid for the last 3.5 years or so. JVP, Jerusalem Venture Partners, is one of Israel's leading venture capital funds. We've been around since 1993. Founded and chaired by Dr. Aurel Margalit, who is still very active and leading many of our companies. We manage about $2 billion in assets under management. We've invested in about 160 different companies throughout the years. Fortunately enough for us, we had more than 40 different exits, 12 NASDAQ IPOs, a few M&As as well. Total transaction value around that is such that allowed us to really be positioned as one of the top 10 global consistently performing VCs over the years, as ranked according to our financial performance. And I can characterize our investment strategy as what you can call theme-specific, stage agnostic. So we invest in things that we believe we can add value in. You'll be the judge if we could really add value
We'll talk about the value.
Yeah, exactly.
The representative of the dark side.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Across different stages, so from early stage to late stage, primary transaction, secondary transaction, on the low end, a few millions, on the high end, close to $100 million kind of check size for a transaction. We're typically very hands-on in the way we work with our companies, typically the largest shareholder. It's not uncommon for us to reach the exit point with 30, 40, 50% ownership, unlike other VCs that have a different strategy. And we pride ourselves on building some of Israel's largest exits to date.
Thank you. Very impressive. No wonder we chose you to be part of our journey.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But can you talk about yourself a little bit? What's your background? How did you become an investor? What was your kind of interest to, you started in the operation world and at some point decided to move to the dark side.
Yeah. So
why is that?
So indeed, I spent the last 14 years after Aurel invited me to join JVP on the dark side, as you call it. It's not really the dark side.
It's full of money, but it's quite dark for us.
Okay. I'll be able to shed some light on that. So spent the last 14 years at JVP. Before that, I spent 10 years in operating roles, starting with product leadership, marketing, business development, sales, general management in startups, taking them essentially from zero to IPO readiness. I will never forget it that in 2007, we were just in the middle of a roadshow to list a company on one of the leading exchanges. And as we go from one meeting to the other, people are telling us, maybe you shouldn't go to the next meeting because there's a global financial crisis unraveling. Anyway, so from zero to IPO readiness. And so I spent about 10 years in those kind of roles. And before that, I originally came from a technology background, computer science background, and I spent a few years in the Israeli Air Force dealing with some mission-critical projects.
So I think that, speaking of adding value, I think that for me personally, but also for Pyramid, the fact that you have operational background, that you were actually looking at customers in the eye, that you were carrying a briefcase, that you were in the designing and executing of operational plans, is, I would say, quite unusual in the landscape of board members and investors. I think that position you in a very unique situation to really understand the value creation on the one hand, but also the pain that an entrepreneur is facing. It's not so easy to execute on a plan. You approve it at the board, and then someone needs to go and do it. And I think, at least for us as a company, the fact that you do have hands-on experience is dramatically different in the way we interact with potentially other either investors or board members. So first of all, I think that's something very unique that you bring to the table. But also, do you see that as part of your role as a board member and investor? Because most investors are financial investors.
Right.
They just want a good exit.
Yeah. Look, so first of all, thank you again. But I think that's our job as investors. At JVP, we pride ourselves at being more company builders than investors, right? So this is what the multi-stage investment strategies allows us to do. We start from the infrastructure, from laying the foundations to a company, from building a team, taking intellectual property from the university, no entrepreneur, no founding team, commercializing it, building a management team, putting together a product, taking it to the market, validating it. In many cases, you need adjustments, of course, as you go along, and then starting to scale. And we do all of that, right? So we try to create a team which is comprised out of operators, which allows us to really help those companies on strategy, on the product thinking, marketing, business development, sales, executive hiring, which is key to any company, a leadership position, framing its positioning as it continues to grow to category leadership, and eventually taking it to public markets. I think that that's how we see ourselves. Okay, there is more than one way to act as an investor, as a board member. So I don't know if it's better or worse than other type of investors. I can say that it allows us, on one hand, to be hands-on, to really know what's going on with the company. On the other hand, to create some empathy to leadership and management teams and founders.
I don't know where you came up with that. I don't feel any empathy.
Yeah, well, because you're in a different stage. You're at the time where
in the no empathy stage.
You caught me in the middle of the sentence. I said, on one hand, to build some empathy. On the other hand, entrepreneurs can't bullshit us. So we know what they're really going through, how to be able to help them on one hand, but really push them to make the most out of what they can do on the other hand. So, if I was able to spend 36 hours in the same negotiation room with a large US-based company, when I was negotiating deals, I expect my CEOs to do the same. I don't expect them to leave the final negotiations to a VP or to a sales leader or something. I expect them to be in the field. When people tell me, I need to postpone the release of a certain version of the product by a month, okay, and on the other hand, I come to the parking lot and I see that it's vacant from the employees from that company's cars.
It's work from home.
COVID. It's still COVID, yeah, somewhere, I guess. But in any case, so and I don't see the sleeping bags in the office. Okay, I know that they're not doing their most, right? So because I've been there, I've done that, and so it has we have the ability to be empathic, but also to demand the most that our entrepreneurs can bring to the companies.
No, I think, first of all, from first-hand experience, I would definitely agree with that. I'm not so sure about the empathy side, but I definitely think that having an investor that's been in the trenches makes it way more authentic when you come to the table with requests, with guidance, with as you
best
said,
practices. Yeah.
With what?
Best practices.
Best practices. I think it really helps us be better. So I totally appreciate the type of investors, that profile. So, you've been an investor in Click, which is a legacy vendor in the analytics space. And you've made a fortune out of that transaction. Good for you. But I think when it comes to Pyramid, you came after quite a long, interesting journey in the analytics market. And for us, it was almost a kosher stamp that someone who were part of a very successful journey in the analytics market decided to embark on yet another analytics company. So, without trying to promote Pyramid too much, but it's probably the best company in the world, definitely in the analytics space. How would you characterize your kind of observation of Pyramid as part of that industry?
Oh, it's a long question, but in any case, look, let me maybe go back a bit to our roots in data and analytics so that I can explain why did we like Pyramid, why do we still like it, why do we think it can be a category leader, why are we so pleased, I would say, but unsurprised to see the extent of the use cases that Pyramid can solve to customers very uniquely in a very cost-effective manner, I would say. So we JVP started in analytics and data back in the 90s. We started with the infrastructure databases. We had a company called the Precise Software that was actually trying to tackle some of the kind of advanced data strategies and analytics, but from a database optimization perspective. So how to make sure queries are executed in a good way, in a speedy enough manner that you don't extract too much data, that you know where the data resides, how to index it, and things like that. So, really kind of infrastructure level optimization. We then, Ariel, Margalit, and the team led the investment in Click. Click was actually a Swedish company out of Lund in the south of Sweden. And I think that JVP came across them, I wouldn't say by accident, but almost by accident. We were doing due diligence on another analytics company, Israeli analytics company, and Click came up as a competitor. I think that the bid that at the time was going on is by the Israeli police organization, and Click was a competitor, and they won the bid. And eventually, that led, after we did the due diligence, to our investment in Click. It was a seed stage, almost a seed stage investment. Click was, I think at the time when Ariel invested, was about $1 million or so of revenue. And they had a very unique product, which had two main characteristics. One was an in-memory database that allowed them to process data and kind of crunch numbers in a way that put on the desktop of the user enough firepower to run decent level of analytics. And the second element was a very cool user experience that allowed non-professional users to really get fast queries and reports and analytics and dashboarding to the level that was needed at that time. And that's how Click started, right? But at the time they were Swedish, as I said, and they were very
Swedish.
Yeah, very particular about customer satisfaction, which still I think it's a great thing, obviously. And they kind of had a decision or a strategy. Not sure if it was formal, but effectively that was the case, that they will only serve customers that are within a few hours driving distance from their Lund, Sweden headquarters. Now, obviously, that's not a huge geography, and most of their revenue at the time came from professional services that were built around their very unique technological engine. What Ariel and then a few other partners at JVP did is that to transition the company from to turn them into a global leader, to put their sales and marketing headquarters in the US, to re-domicile them into a US-based company, to build a management team that can really scale them. Along the way, and it might sound familiar to you as well, we said no to an acquisition offer from Microsoft. It was 2008, the height of the financial crisis. Obviously, People thought that we were lunatics in saying no to Microsoft. It wasn't a small deal, it was a substantial deal. We said no. And I think that led to an extent to the Pyramid Microsoft partnership that originally, but to an extent.
That's for a different episode, but we'll
Yes.
talk about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so 2008, we said no to an acquisition offer from Microsoft, and eventually the management team was able to take the company to public market readiness. The company IPO'd in 2010. We were in there together with Accel, another obviously leading venture capital firm from the UK, and we many people look at an IPO as an exit opportunity. I think that what's unique, as I said about Arel and his strategy and our strategy, is that we're company builders. So we thought we're not done just yet. Okay, we thought that there is still a lot of juice in that company, and we, while others distributed the shares in kind, we stuck around with the company and were able to generate even higher returns, significantly higher returns, by sticking around for about 3 years more post IPO. And eventually they became a multi-billion-dollar company, definitely one of the category leaders. Later on they got privatized, but we're very proud of that journey that we took with them, as we've done with other companies as well. Now, post that experience, right, we kept monitoring the domain. We wanted to see what can be, or where can we find the next generation data analytics company. We knew what were the challenges. The challenge is that no matter what tool you used, whether it is Click or Tableau or SAPs or whatever, Power BI, there were three fundamental challenges that still remain. One is that most analytics tools, they don't tap the entire data set the organization has. Okay, you use OLAP, you use ETL strategies, all kinds of strategies, primarily because of performance issues, primarily because of the query engine limitations, which in turn limits the data that you can put at the hands of every user. That was challenge number one. Challenge number two is that because of the complexity of the tools, because of governance issues, because of enterprise limitations and so forth, because of information system departments, availability, cost, and so forth, there are users in the organization that get good access to data and dashboarding and analytics, and users that don't, okay? Typically, the management team always have the data that they need to make their decisions, but most of the users of the organization don't have analytics at the tip of their fingers. And third, was that if you look at the number of decisions, or the percentage, the ratio of decisions in the organization that are being driven off of data strategies or data and information and knowledge, the proportion is still very low. Most decisions are uninformed in terms of the data that exists in the organization. And we looked for a company that can address those three issues. And I think that that's what you try to build with Pyramid. So very shortly, all data to all
Commercial
users.
break, Pyramid Analytics.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that that's what attracted us to you guys. We tracked the company for a few years, actually, before we invested.
We felt it.
Yep. You still feel it, I guess. But in any case, we felt that the product was there. We felt that the management team was there. What we didn't feel comfortable with at the time was the fact that you were focusing primarily on what you can call small and medium organizations. Click was a very successful company for us, but one thing that we were never able to do with Click is to really penetrate large enterprises in a good enough manner. We were successful in having enterprise customers, but it was always bottom up, right? So we started with the departmental level and working our way into the IT organization, into the information system organization. And what we didn't feel comfortable with Pyramid at the time was the fact that you also were looking at small, medium enterprises. We thought your product was an overkill, actually, for small and medium organization. We felt that this is the right product to go after enterprises, to solve really painful problems, really costly problems, really expensive problems, for large enterprises. And when we had the dialogue late 2019, early 2020, about whether or not Pyramid can go for such a change, we felt that there's openness to working with us. Again, that kind of dialogue between entrepreneurs and investors is really critical in our opinion. So we felt that we had such a interesting and open dialogue as to how to take your technological assets and translate them into what we felt was the right market, which was the enterprise market, which really, if you think about data and analytics, didn't see a lot of innovation in the last, 15 years or so.
I would say 4 decades,
Yeah.
but we can...
Anyway, whatever, for a long time, for a long enough
Absolutely.
time to create another category leader. And that's what really attracted us eventually to invest in you guys and to partner with you on taking it to its full extent and possibility of bringing that message of all data, all decisions, all users to the enterprises that you work with. And I think that you have some great case study around that.
First of all, it's kind of interesting that you were tracking a company. So if I'm an entrepreneur now listening to this podcast, and I have a company running for a few years, would you recommend that I keep in touch with potential investors? Should I keep the market aware of what's coming, where I am, what I do, how I operate?
Yeah. Well, first of all, for sure. Investment decisions are, you always hear those kind of stories about an entrepreneur meeting an investor and they sign a term sheet on a napkin in the restaurant and think, okay, these things may happen. 2024, not really. So I definitely encourage...
It's a digital napkin anyway,
yes,
so you
exactly.
can...
I definitely encourage entrepreneurs and founders to keep a relationship, to build a relationship. Investing in a company, raising capital is like getting married, right? So
it's worse.
It's worse.
You can't get divorced.
Exactly. You can get divorced, but it's harder.
It's very difficult.
But in any case, so it's a Catholic marriage. But in any case, to that extent, you really want to make sure that you can build those relationships, that you have the trust, and it's not just the trust; it's the ability to work with the individuals that you're going to work with for the next decade. It's a long time period out of everyone's life, right? And you need to make sure that next 10 years is something that these are people.
We weren't so great doing that, but
yeah,
not everybody is successful.
You didn't do your due diligence, so, but in any case, so definitely keep in touch. Definitely build a relationship with the investors. I would say that especially if you are a growth or an early growth stage company, the investment decisions take time. What a good investor has is investment thesis that he has. It's not a single company that he's tracking. He's tracking a category. He's tracking a cohort of companies. In the same way that we had that other Israeli data analytics company and then Click and Pyramid. We tracked those companies. We learned. We studied those companies. We studied the categories. And that's what entrepreneurs need to understand, right? When they speak to investors, they might as well find an investor that knows something about their category, and vice versa with the investor, right? They need to look at the cohort of companies, and they will invest out of 1 out of 10 or 1 out of few dozens of companies in the category.
So I would say just from our side, that we tracked JVP as well. That for us, having an investor that already had a successful journey in the analytics market was very important for us because we are in a crowded market. Many people ask themselves why yet another analytics company in this category. It is a massive category, but it's still somewhat crowded. And having an investor that had appreciation for how differentiated we are, which you enumerated, exactly all the things that we are different in the space. Was also important for us. So I think we had multiple conversations with JVP over the years, and it came to a point where I think it worked for both sides. We maybe were a little bit more mature to align with your investment strategy. Yeah. I think you were more free to take a deeper look, and I think it worked out. So I think both sides needs to keep their kind of hands on what's happening in the space. So speaking of this space, AI, data, analytics, obviously one of the hottest industries, which Pyramid is playing in all of them, and we're seeing tremendous, I would say, even revolutions around the utilization of those assets across companies. As you mentioned, we're in the enterprise space or upper mid-market and enterprise space, and we see how fundamental it became for those companies to implement those type of technologies and use them strategically rather than just ad hoc tactically. Let's pull in another database and track revenues or something something basic like that. And I think you touched on does organizations become data driven and culturally data driven, looking at the history of Click and what the market is today. And I'm wondering, is that a space that you constantly track and look at, and what kind of companies are interesting? And maybe from that perspective, where do you see Pyramid fit into that pretty sizable spectrum of data analytics and AI solutions?
I think that if you look back, let's say 2 decades on data analytics, right? So first of all, you see a lot of companies that kind of invested in the underpinnings, right? The data, the storage even elements, whether it's on the cloud or on-prem kind of solutions. We've seen these companies do well, right? Of course, large companies like VMware or Nutanix or very long list, right, of companies that dealt with the infrastructure. Of course, the cloud providers that are huge in that, Databricks, others, Snowflake. We've seen many companies that deal with the kind of plumbing, infrastructure, underpinnings that is so critical to get that right. Then over the last 10 years, we've seen huge adoption of AI. Right, data analytics at large, but AI specifically. There are many problems that got solved by applying AI to them. We've invested in a few companies in the category, solving problems from IT to all the way to financial services needs, companies like Tetheray or Earnix or others that make the most out of financial...
JVP promotion for its portfolio companies.
Exactly.
Lovely.
Shameless plug, you need that. But in any case, so these are great companies that benefited, but these are point problems that they're solving, right? If you look at an enterprise, if you look at any of your customers, you also solve a lot of problems for them. You typically start with one problem, okay? So for example, how to get my supply chain right, how to do automotive recall right, how to build my customers in the more efficient, consistent, legitimate manner. These are painful problems, millions, tens of millions of dollars problems for your customer. You solve them using your platform. I think the next evolution would come from looking at it more holistically, okay? How can I not solve just one problem, but rather bridge together all those islands of data, of knowledge, of AI, into a more of creating a fabric of AI, a fabric that can drive problems that you can't even identify today for your organization. We see things like ChatGPT today or other Gen AI technologies, which are essentially, in layman kind of words, taking some level of semantic understanding, summarization capabilities, federated kind of learning and so forth, and allowing to ask questions that the machine was not trained specifically to solve, okay? That's what, very high level ChatGPT and other LLM, large language models allow you to do. And I think that when we look at the next gen in the space, you need to ask yourself, how can I plug into that domain? How can I become key? Not necessarily but how can I become key in that very broad, abstracted infrastructure for the organization to solve those unknown problems? And I think that, again, what excites us about Pyramid today is the fact that once you have the access to a larger number of data repositories than anyone else in the organization. Once you have the ability to query those resources directly, rather than going through ETL processes, all-up cubes, and so forth, which today what those ETLs are great. They improve performance, they improve security, regulatory constraints, and so forth, and all of that. That's great. What they do less than perfect is that they actually strip away some of the semantics. They strip away context. They strip away the ability to zoom in and zoom out from within the data. And that will not, therefore, data that is driven off of those kind of legacy data approaches will not allow itself to be the infrastructure or the data layer or the information layer on top of which those very abstract knowledge bases may be built. And I think that in that extent, that's the opportunity that we see for many analytics company. That's the opportunity we also see for Pyramid. And we're very excited about that.
You provided quite a broad, deep explanation of how to think about the data stack that allows AI companies to add value. But can you give us some examples of AI-driven companies that you invested in, so people will actually appreciate the value that, we're all talking about AI and we're all familiar with ChatGPT, but at the end of the day, it's really useful in day-to-day life. And I think that what's interesting is that eventually AI is driven by data, mostly data analytics. People don't really know that, but without data, there's no AI. Analytics is a big driver for making AI usable. And, you have some really interesting companies that are doing stuff like that.
Sure. So let's take maybe a couple of examples. Again, not necessarily the most sophisticated ones, but just to give you the feel of the breadth of what we can derive from the application of AI strategies on good data sets. So one great example would be a company called ControlUp. Okay, so ControlUp operates in a completely different space. It allows, it's in the space called digital employee experience, really allowing IT organizations to make sure employees make the most out of their IT infrastructure. When they want to log into Zoom, they can log into Zoom and do a Zoom call without glitches, without no one hearing them, and so forth. So the application of AI there is several-fold. First of all, if there's a problem, okay, where's the problem? Okay, where's the problem? I collect a lot of data, but how can I replace the IT professional or augment the IT professional in a way that allows to identify the root cause of the problem? And second is remediation. Okay, so let's say I identify the root cause. Okay, now what do I do with it? Do I need to go to an expert to write a shell script or something like that to fix the problem? Maybe the machine can help me create that script such that the IT manager can just review it and authorize it, rather than having to go and write it and test it and so forth. So Gen AI and its application towards IT might be a very relevant and kind of example. Another great example would be a company like Centrical. Centrical operates in making sure that what we call frontline employees, right, those call centers, those salespeople, can do their job right? They need a lot of training, they need a lot of coaching. Each employee is different. One may know how to solve problem for an Android phone, the other one knows how to solve it on the iOS operating system. So personalizing learning experiences that are automatically generated by really understanding and analyzing how the employee deals with a customer calling in to complain is something that AI can help generate and can help
customer
solve.
Service, basically.
Customer service, yep.
Customer satisfaction rates.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, and that throws a question, at least from Pyramid's perspective. We're often asked by investors, what's the difference between a company that, like Pyramid, that sells a general platform versus a specialized solution? We typically will compete against one of the incumbents. Click is a good example, but many others that will sell a generic open analytics platform, an analytics solution that will try to solve a use case that could be one of the ones that you just mentioned versus a specialized company. from your perspective, what's the difference? Where would you see Pyramid really plays versus the specialized offerings?
Look, I think that every organization have problems of the two types. Problems that are so significant and so stable, right, in the organization that you are looking for a very specialized solution, and obviously a specialized solution have many different features and capabilities to solve a specific problem set. And then there are problems that you need to solve fast, that you need to really nail down and get rid of, and tomorrow you'll have a different set of problems. And those, typically when you talk about detection of issues and so forth, you talk about known issues and unknown issues, right? So I think that the horizontal platforms, right, platforms like Pyramid, their strength is that not only do you have like a breadth of use cases, right, that you already solved for, and you can just templatize and copy paste from one customer to the other, and I know that you do that very successfully. But you can also guarantee to the customer that when they have a problem that they didn't tackle before, you'll be able to, 80-20, get them over that hump and be able to solve that problem. So I think that that's how organizations think about implementing different types of platforms, both in terms of the magnitude, the stability of the problems, and the fact that even if they solved all the known issues, all the known problems, they still will always have more unknown problems to tackle. And this is where we need horizontal platforms such as Pyramid.
Totally agreed. And I think that that's where the opportunity for a company like Pyramid, when we solve a use case, there's always opportunity to go and expand for the following use case. We're not just narrowed on not that it's a bad thing, but we're not narrowed on a specific problem set that we're trying to solve. We're actually trying to solve for in a way, a holistic approach to any type of use case that the organization has from a data analytics perspective, and obviously AI is kind of the sparkle.
And I think that this is also, again, one of the unique things about Pyramid, what we like, because when you use all the BI tools, business objects and whatever, in the past to solve those problems, you created what is it called, universe, right, of analytics, right, that was tailor fit to solve or to create the knowledge level for a specific problem, dashboarding and reports, okay? What we have with Pyramid, right, given the direct query engine, given the ability to map all the different data layers, you also have the semantics to solve a specific problem, right, but you're not limited by the semantics that you build in, but rather you essentially create a mirror image of the real world, right, of the operational systems of the organization, not the data warehousing system, which strip away knowledge, right, but the operational systems that are the fabric of what runs the organization, and then you can easily solve more and more problems as they come along.
So one of the, I think the strategies in analytics is prescriptive analytics, right? That maybe it's the kind of the holy grail of AI in our industry. Right. What's your vision? Where is it going? What do you think is going to happen? We internally at Pyramid, when we do roundtables and we're trying to imagine the roadmap and where should Pyramid be in 10 years, we're talking about autonomous companies. Yeah. You'll turn a button, I'll ask Yoav to invest $100 million in that setup, and AI will run it. There won't be any humans. I'll get a universal income. I'll be on the beach, which is where I want to be anyways, and the company will run itself. So what do you think is going to happen? AI is kind of I'm sure you see it every presentation. No matter what, there will be AI, but it's sometimes misses the mark for it.
Yeah. Look, I think that the state of prescriptive analytics is that today is that the more well-defined the problem is, the more are you able to come up with prescriptive analytics around that, okay? So for example, if you use Waze to navigate your way, then Waze is built on a data layer. And if you want to get from point A to point B on a very well-known route system and traffic situation, then you'll get a pretty good answer from where it's not perfect, but you'll get a pretty good ansr. And they can also.
I'm always stuck in traffic. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the situation in Israel. But I think the prescriptive analytics holy grail is in being able to create the infrastructure such that you're able to answer problems that you're not defining or can't define even well today. That's the promise, okay? And I think that any company that tries to build an engine that will cover dozens, hundreds of different use cases in those set of problems is not going to be that successful. I think the companies that are going to be successful are the ones that understand that prescriptive analytic is an interactive process between a set of users or a set of machines and other machines. It doesn't have to be human users necessarily, that give feedback back into the prescriptive analytics engine such that it's able to improve itself over time. That's the foundation of deep learning at the end of the day. And that's where companies have the ability to create ever-improving set of prescriptive analytics engines that will eventually be able to solve a larger pool of problems.
So is AI going to deprecate humans forever?
No, I think that AI has still a lot of challenges in front of it. I think that accuracy, reliability, privacy, security are all problems that are not really solved for in AI. I think that even if they're solved, at least in the next 50 years, the problems that are going to be solved by AI are specific problems with generic or horizontal platforms improving over time, solving some problems well, some problems they will never be able to solve. And I think that that's, it's like, it's another revolution, like the industrial revolution, the data revolution, and so forth, and the internet revolution, and now the AI revolution that we'll be able to enjoy. I think that it will allow you to spend more time on the beach. And to us, it will mean the ability to invest more and create more successful companies.
So first of all, I think that can't get any more optimistic than that. There definitely people that are thinking it's the end of humans. Like, you can have two sides of the spectrum. One that will say humans are obsolete, can take 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, we're done. And I think that you mentioned augmented analytics. I think that, or augmented AI, I think that we're seeing much more applicable, operationalized AI is in the augmented side, is that it's going to displace mundane work, it's going to displace lots of labor-intense practices that will free people to do much more, I would say, creative or cognitive intense work. Yeah. And I think that we should embrace it. I think it's a good revolution. I think it's coming.
Look, I think that I think you gave me the example of that retail department store floor manager, right? That he was constantly chasing after data and to stock up on the right items and come up with the right promotions. And with the application of Pyramid, with the application of AI within Pyramid, he just gets a list of recommendations. Okay, he can choose whether or not to implement them. Perhaps some of them are less relevant, some of them are more relevant. But over time, as he chooses the right suggestions, right, his sales improve, he gets promoted, he gets higher salary.
He got the Employee of the Year. It's a retailer in the right. UK. Won't mention his name, but he definitely got the Employee of the Year.
Great. So yeah. That's exactly how AI is well positioned to improve our lives rather than necessarily bring the Armageddon that some people are promoting.
Well, Yoav, first of all, thank you for sharing all of those thoughts. Successfully, we survived it. The dark side and the bright side.
Not sure who's who.
I know exactly who it is. But with all seriousness, thank you. I appreciate the partnership and the support, and also sharing your thoughts on our Data Shark show. Thank you again, and
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
of course, and I think there's going to be a follow-up.
Thank you.